And what do we see? These impressionable young kids being like, ha ha ha, yeah, I'm depressed.
Relatable.
And then,
Slay.
lo and behold, they actually develop clinical depression because they believe, mind over body.
There was a big trend on TikTok, fake mental disorders.
Oh, yeah, like Tourette's.
The trend that...
Yeah, but they'll like give themselves actual symptoms of a mental disorder because they pretend to have it for so long.
Quote unquote, self-diagnose.
Yeah, that's normal.
That's been happening for ages.
Yeah, that's normal.
I would say ridiculous, but it's more ramped on TikTok because it's such a large platform now.
Because they'll choose like the most rare mental disorder possible, and
that
then pretend that they
goes
have
on
it,
command,
and then make like 30 videos about it to make money.
I would say a more accurate example, and this is just
split personality disorder.
This is my personal opinion.
Dissociative identity disorder.
I'm terribly sorry if this offends you guys in any way.
Shit like that.
But I remember a faint time in a galaxy far, far away when if you were autistic, it was pretty blatant that you were autistic. Like, it was like, oh, yeah, that guy has autism.
Yeah, like you could just look at him and
right,
see.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's fucked, right? But that's true.
Sure.
We live in a day and age now where people think that because autism is this spectrum thing, that they have autism.
Yep.
I firmly believe that people can look at me nowadays and they'll look at me and they'll go, don't you have autism? And I'm like, no, I've never been diagnosed. I've never.
You actually bring up a good point because
but
now
they believe that
I have
they
3
have
chromosomes. That doesn't mean I have Down syndrome.
But they believe that they themselves or that technically
I have XYZ,
when someone
bro.
says when someone says, "Oh, my brother's autistic,"
on Warhammer.
You know what I mean? Like, and the person's like genuinely autistic. I tell them, and I say this with kindness. I tell the individual, well, technically in the day and age we live now, everyone's a little autistic.
And it's a good point you bring that up.
I know that sounds stupid, but that is what society is leading people to believe. And that is what media is leading people to believe as well.
All right,
this is coming down to what do you define as autism?
So there's a show, Brandon.
Is it the autistic dating?
Yes. I wanted to bring that up for quite a while since you brought up the spectrum.
Where is he going? Where is he going?
He's not feeling well.
Bathroom, okay.
Okay. No, so the whole not controversy, but you bringing up how there's like how the way it was looked at like early in life, like autism, the spectrum, how it was a delicate subject. Now the way it's being portrayed as not just portrayed, but the way it's televised, it's like, oh, this is a new norm. Like
they're treating it as if it's a fucking fad.
Exactly.
And that is with everything nowadays. It's even with split personality. You're 100% right.
Here's something that's important to take a note of is that people's indulgence in these things, and arguably this is a situation where people are indulging in other people's mental, quote unquote, if they even have it, a lot of the times on social media is self-diagnosed, mental illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between feeding into somebody's transgenderism? There's no difference.
There is no difference.
Yeah.
It is the same. Everything nowadays is a fad. It's an excuse to feel different.
As
it's
a fad.
An excuse to feel special.
Because
and
what
feel
is
like a minority.
Because the primary motive and what makes humans feel better is belonging.
Correct. Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Belonging.
And it's kind of disgusting, honestly, if we think about it on a real level. Is I this has been mentioned on the podcast before. This is ages ago. But it makes you wonder, with me personally, who has family members who have gone through legit depression, suicide attempts, it is beyond aggravating to see these fuckers who are so obviously not depressed. Because guess what? We have prime examples in society. Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
Who their only motive was to bring joy to other people because they could not feel it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
To make other people laugh because they could not themselves. And sure, they put on a happy face.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they had some demons that they were dealing with.
And to be honest,
and what do we see on social media? Oh, look at me. I'm so depressed. Guess what I did today? I just slept in bed. You know what was not thing and why it took everyone by surprise?
It's being paraded as quirky, as preppy, as...
Do you know what happened when Robin Williams died? Committed suicide.
I've seen
because of his depression.
I've seen those photos of his photos. Yeah,
people were shocked. Yeah. They were blown away. They were like, "How could somebody be so happy?" And commit suicide.
Because that's genuine depression.
That's genuine depression, right?
Because at the end of the day, you don't know who's.
You don't
really
talk
depressing.
about it.
Yeah, no. If you voice it,
it's hard.
By you voicing it and publicly voicing it, especially like over in a camera and social media, you're publicizing it for your own game.
I remember that
it's attention grab, and I hate to say that because
Robin Williams died.
That's my exact point.
I remember that day.
Prime examples of what actual true depression looks like, and we have all these fucking kids and these adults who seek validation online because, I get all these heart emojis and you're strong comments and you're so brave because they're just fine with that because one, they probably have low self-esteem.
Absolutely.
For one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they need that sort of, lowest tier level possible validation from strangers. And if this applies to you, here's my thing. If this applies to you and you do this shit, one, let me get to my point first. What this does is it devalues true depression.
Yeah.
Because I always think, how many of those teens, kids, online were actually calling for help?
And you know what's crazy? And this is my liberal coming out. Does the same thing with sexuality. It does the same thing with gendering. By you just saying what you are simply to feel different or to feel special or have a sense of belonging, you're devaluing individuals who do struggle with what's even the word called? Being
gender dysphoria.
Gender dysphoria, being gender fluid, who struggle with their sense of identity because of how they feel. And it devalues it, and it's honestly heartbreaking for me because I see it every day.
My own parents would actually make fun of me for that. I'm not even joking. My mother, like, I'm single. Everyone in my family, well, except my little brother, is like, they already have kids. My siblings already have kids. My parents already grandparents. Like, and then there's me. I'm not the most social person. I do remember before I left Texas, my sister would just all call me gay, and even my dad that I worked with, like, with everything, with cars, with fucking housing, like, he would just say, it's okay, I love you, I'll still love you, and I'm just telling him, like, no, that's not, I'm not gay, I'm not, I know that I'm fucking straight, I know that I bust my ass that to be where I'm at now, and I couldn't stand it. And they still do that shit. They call me. My sister calls me. She FaceTimes me. She still calls me gay. She's still, because...
And ultimately, it's just like, what? Say social anxiety?
It's not just social anxiety. Like, to me, it's not just social anxiety, but it's just like, they're just being assholes or something.
Yeah, I would like to take a minute for me for me to go a little deep here. So...
Go, no,
this is just my personal thing, right? Because this really does get me riled up. And me being liberal, I know that probably sounds surprising, but liberalism, then this is my general opinion on what it is. It's being equal, right?
Yeah.
Showing a sense of self.
Yeah.
Sense of independence, but also showing a sense of compassion. So when you create these ideologies, you're really only creating division.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you're also creating pain for others.
Yeah.
And the way I grew up, I've seen things that I shouldn't have seen as the kid I was, and I experienced things that no one should ever have to go through. And for the longest time, I dealt with this disorder that I've recently been diagnosed with, and I did not think for 1 second that I even had it. I thought I was just some weird kid that did this weird thing, and, my mom would always tell me, oh, he just has no friends. He's an outcast, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And then when I tried to take my own life, and I explained to my psychologist what I've been going through, they told me pretty specifically, they were like, well, you have the symptoms of, you know, a borderline personality disorder. This is
Mhm.
like, you have that. Like, everything's lining up. You have the trauma, you have the trigger events, and it really did shock me because I wanted to pretend that I did not have it.
Right.
I did my best to denounce it. I was like, no, it
No,
can't
there's
be.
no way. It can't be me.
Yeah, I was like, no, because you live your whole life thinking that this thing inside of you is
I'm sorry, if you're
not
hearing
true.
creaking, that's me.
And you immediately try to, you know, call its bluff because you don't want to feel like you're crazy.
Mm.
And that was my biggest concern. I was like, I don't want people to think I'm crazy. I don't want people.
I
to
do
think
remember
I'm
when
insane.
I was at one point in my life here, that I was just looked at like in a way, and I mean like in the unit,
Mhm.
like I felt as if I wasn't wanted, you know, in things. And I want to say there is that difference between depression and just being depressed.
Right.
I was depressed.
Yeah.
For honestly, this is probably my first experience ever
Right.
being depressed. And I just remember this one time, a good friend invited me to go out for a game. And you know, okay, it's airsoft, obviously.
Right.
But the point I want to get to is just getting out and just experiencing like not just I'm trying to word it
Just
together.
getting out the door.
Just getting out the door and just experiencing not just, you know, your coworkers like way of like what's it called, like background of life or
Culture.
and walks of life. That's what I meant.
Right.
Walks of life. Like don't like, cuz in the like at work, you'll see that like people it's not that different, you know? But if you actually go out and you actually experience life, you experience emotion, you experience just nature.
Yeah.
Like in its natural form.
To sort of take an aside from what you're saying, as well as you made a very keen distinction between depression and just being in a state of being depressed.
And I was I'll say it was a deep state of
right. Depression is a chronic issue, which is usually diagnosed.
Like I have actual
but
depression,
it's that
right.
It's that understanding.
And what we have
that I wanted to get to
in social media is we have people who are using the words, "I'm so depressed today."
Yeah. But people take it as,
"Oh, I have anxiety." No, motherfucker. You mean you're sad.
Or you're anxious.
You mean you're anxious. You're nervous.
But a lot of times you're confused.
It's like, oh,
at least I was confused.
I see this all the time. I have a new job interview. My anxiety is through the roof.
Exactly.
No, motherfucker. You're nervous.
Exactly.
Congrats. You're human. That's a normal human response.
That's the confusion I was like, I was trying to bring up too.
I will stand and die on this fucking hill. They're not fucking confused at all.
Yeah.
They're not. I have been struggling with this shit for as long as I can fucking remember.
But
I did my best to pretend it wasn't a thing.
Well, I have a question for you, Oscar. On your Twitch or on your social media, do you constantly parrot that you're depressed or have these issues?
No. There'll be
Why is that?
Because
Oscar?
I'm not there to get personal gain out of it. There'll be days, right?
Thank you.
And this is my favorite. This is my favorite
right
thing,
there,
right?
Right there. You're not there to get personal gain. All these people are using shit that you're struggling with for personal gain.
So one thing that I do enjoy, and I'll openly admit this because other YouTubers do it, and I fucking applaud them for it. There'll be YouTubers out there who struggle with depression. One of my favorite ones is Markiplier. I actually don't think he has struggling anymore, but
I think he's doing quite well.
Yeah.
And
when you
for him, though.
when you
I love
talk
that.
about
I don't want to
things,
talk about Markiplier.
when you have issues going on in your life, just like how Robin Williams did, you play this facade that everything's okay. I do the same thing, but there'll be moments in time where I think to myself, who can value from the effort I'm making in my life to make change in the way I feel and view society and myself? So there'll be times in Twitch I'll take a pause and I'll give them update. How am I doing? How's my life progressing? And I give them lessons. I tell them how I'm feeling and how I can change the way I feel. I tell them things that have happened that have made me feel certain ways, like depressed, sad, angry, and how I can mold that into something new. It even though I am constantly struggling with depression every day, and I have this fucking disorder and shit like that, I don't publicize it. I don't voice it, and I don't try to gain from it.
You're proving my point.
It's
is
just
people who have legitimately been diagnosed with this shit keep it to themselves, if not with their very close friends.
Because it's scary. It's
scary.
It's genuinely scary. It's not something to joke about
it's such an extremely personal thing to be like, there is something going on with my brain.
You don't.
That is as personal as it gets.
Like, I can't.
Right?
Like, I can't even fathom the idea of me standing on a stage and being like, "Oh, hey, everybody."
My anxiety was through the roof.
My name's
up
Oscar here. So my other self came out the other day and almost shot up entire Arby's with an AK-47. So I feel pretty unique right now.
Don't say that. I don't want an ATF visit.
I feel pretty unique right now. Like,
by the way, I'm back from blowing up your toilet. You have ants.
Yeah, the ants are invading the bathroom for a reason.
Yeah, put a wall, keep them out.
But yeah, you see what I mean? Like,
are we still on mental illness?
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't voice my opinions on the matter like that, because the last thing I want people to do is look at me like I'm different.
It's very different because you are one who is actively struggling with the thing. I am one who has had family struggle with the thing. And so me being able to sit on the outside, I feel completely capable to be pissed off at all the children, is what they are. Regardless of age, they're children who are towing this legitimate mental illness as a fashion statement, being like, "Oh, look at me, I'm so depressed or anxiety."
I can't tell you how many times I'll meet.
Finish your thought. We will move on to the next topic.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times in people in younger age groups, they'll say they have this disorder, and I'll use Split for this instance because it's huge. You're 100%.
What a great movie!
It is a good movie. Not accurate depiction, but we're just gonna ignore that, right? This gets me fuming. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like they sit there, and you could be like 14, 13 years old, and it's like, yeah, I have approximately like 7 personalities. You know how old was I when I found out that I had this thing? I was 22 years old.
I just saw a clip on TikTok of...
You have multiple personalities, is that what you're saying?
I have 2.
This person who is...
What if you just have 2 moods? What if it's
not
a different personality?
How it functions, but you're 100% right, because there's definitely individuals like that. And it's upsetting because they use it as this statement. See, the neat thing about me, right, is I had no idea. I struggled with this thing for years. Yeah, sure, I noticed signs, but I never sat there and was
I can hear it when you randomly, your Alabama accent comes through.
That's just an accent change. That has nothing to do with personas.
He can't stop talking like he's from Alabama.
But you can't. I didn't sit there.
Do the accent, so you'll be stuck in it for the next 10 minutes.
I didn't sit there on my desk in high school doing a math quiz going, "Oh no, I'm tweaking. My other personality is coming out, guys." It's like,
imagine you're sitting there during a test and your personality who's bad at math decides to come out.
That's literally not how it works. And it is infuriating because people think that's how it works.
On a side note, I do need to start just straight up like saving the videos from TikTok, because the amount of videos that come across my TikTok commenting on this sort of subject get canceled immediately.
Really?
Of pointing out that this person probably doesn't have what the fuck they're talking about and is just using it to be quote unquote interesting on social media.
So I also don't mean to silence those who are actually struggling, right? Because at the end of the day, you developed a disorder.
Here's
trauma.
Here's a clarification point for me, at least as host and owner of the show. I don't mean to
owner.
I don't mean to minimize. You have like 1.6%. Shut up.
Yeah.
I don't mean to minimize at all of what people might be going through as their struggle. I want you to get help. And I tell you what, help is not on social media.
You're right.
It is not on social media. Go seek a psychologist, one that is actually going to help you and not feed into this malady, okay? Do not do that.
Here's a thought that I just thought of right now. Social media gives you validation.
Yep.
To what you're struggling with. Psychologists, right? They're not necessarily giving you a validation.
They're explaining it to you.
They're explaining it and giving a possible solution.
Yep.
So
a good one at least.
When I heard,
if you're a psychologist and you have gender dysphoria, and like, yeah, you need to chop off your dick, go seek another psychologist.
Yeah, and the crazy part is you're not saying fuck you to that psychologist because you're just
you want to get help.
You're saying to the psychologist, okay, maybe you're right, but also maybe you're wrong, and there's nothing wrong with getting a second opinion.
If you are transgender and you are not in tune with the statistics, you are doing yourself a disservice. The final point before we move on to the next the topic is simple. If you indulge in the gender dysphoria, transgender ideology, you are damning yourself to 42% suicide rate, and if not, you are likely going to die at an early age due to infection. That is just the reality. And if you have a good doctor, they would have already told you this shit. But no, because you're a cash cow, they're going to get massive amounts of money from you because insurance apparently is covering this shit now. Be aware of that, okay? Seek people who are there. This is the compassion part. I am compassionate by saying that I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to be subject to those statistics. Don't do it. You are fine the way that you are. As you were born, you are fine. You just have a little hiccup that you need to get over this hill, okay? Moving on, as far as the discussion of mental illness goes, we have a drag queen who is absolutely baffled by people defending free speech. Here we go.
You think no one should be banned from platform?
Absolutely not.
So like someone calls me like the F slur, you like leave them?
Yeah.
Why?
I get called that
Because
all
that's
the
their
time.
right to say that. Now, you can, there should be measures taken to where, like I said, there are
We'll pause that
repercussions
there.
Measures taken? That's what I got.
After, by the way,
Remember,
this drag queen is dressed in like
the enemy
a
will come for all of
light
your rights.
blue dress, pink wig, lipstick, makeup, everything. And right after that, individual said that because it's their right to say that, he had this big ol' like, what? Like gesture, like what?
The issue is people thinking that they can use the democratic process to legislate away your constitutional rights, which are not given to you by the government. They are God-given.
And you know, we're actually going to listen to this whole thing because arguably a lot of these people, and this clip actually labels them as conservatives, but if you want to ask me, I guarantee you a lot of these people actually have quite liberal viewpoints. Let's continue.
I don't think the platform should be able to remove them, but I think you should have the right to block them like we already can now, because I've lost 3 Instagram profiles just for saying, oh, I don't think children should have sex changes under the age of 18. Account's gone.
You Nazi fucking fascist. You don't think that we can trans 8-year-olds? How fucking dare you? Let's continue.
Thousands of followers and stuff for just saying things that I think are just common
I do have a
sense,
question for you, actually.
Yeah.
Because I can understand why, like, hearing a word like that is harmful, and it's not something that you want to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you rather know who's homophobic, though? Wouldn't you rather know who's racist?
Yeah.
These platforms have the right as private businesses to say what they want on those businesses. It's not cancel culture for them to take down.
That is where she's wrong. This quote-unquote conservative is wrong. Section 230, which is a privilege from Congress that provides to things like Facebook, Twitter, other social media platforms, which provides them the privilege of being considered as a open forum, quote-unquote, a public service, where they do not get held responsible for things that people or their users say. Okay? Very important distinction. So if we want to argue based off of the rule of law in the book, arguably, Twitter in the age before Elon, right? Praise be to Elon. They didn't have a right to censor anybody because they had this beautiful thing called Section 230, which provide them complete immunity to what was utilized on their platform because they're not a publisher. Whereas if I publish shit, I am held liable because we don't have Section 230 privileges, right? If they look on my website and be like, oh my God, all these people, or like this article is blatantly calling for violence, which by the way, you'll never find a single article on there calling for violence, I would be held liable. of course, we already have laws in the books, right? Saying that you cannot call for the direct act of violence, right? You can't call to action for violence. This is where this person is wrong. She said that it is the right of the companies to, say whatever the fuck. No. If you want to go by the book, they can't do anything. Because thereby them interfering with whatever's on their platform is them acting as a publisher and editor, which is completely counterintuitive to what the idea of Section 230 protection was. Let's continue.
Slurs, and honestly, they're not that great at taking down slurs anyway. Because I get called a on a daily basis online. Just
she
for
said
being
cunt.
A Jewish person.
The unfortunate thing is this internet and social media has become the town square. And the town square, if you were to take a box and put it in the town square, there is no limit on what you can say. And who's to say the city's going to come down and say, you use the word and we're going to take your soapbox and you can't ever come back to my city? That's exactly what you're doing when you're saying the platform has every right to remove this language.
You have the option to go to another platform. There's plenty of
So we have an option to go to another city then.
There's plenty of conservative platforms.
Now you have no free speech.
You have free speech because you have so many.
You have free speech, except here. So her argument was immediately is like, oh, well, there's other conservative platforms that you can go on. Like, if you don't like it, you can fuck right off, is what the guy was basically saying.
Yeah.
It's this is by far, there's plenty of these sort of like videos on the internet, but this is by far the most interesting that I've seen. And I'm always looking for content like this.
And
on
it's
the
a
show.
safe space that they're looking for.
This quote unquote safe space where I can't possibly be exposed to anything that might possibly interfere with my common sensibilities.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I have noticed about videos like those, where it displays a sense of logic and a sense of common sense for these, well, obviously ideal opinions that are, in my opinion, philosophically correct, right? The problem with these,
you're right,
is at these social media platforms, how many likes and how many views does that video have?
Irrelevant.
It is relevant.
Irrelevant.
It's super relevant.
Irrelevant.
Well, one, when you go
if you
onto
go
TikTok,
into the War Thunder chats in game, or if you go into the discussion pages or like reviews of any Steam game, right? Here's the thing: if we're going to base things off of people, I never base things off of people's feelings, right? There's facts in life, which I'm sure somebody could posit to me, which I would be uncomfy with, but I would accept. Basing legislation or what social media platforms should do based off of how the vast majority of people agree with them that's not what America stands for. And this gentleman had mentioned, who apparently seems to be on the conservative side of things, says, when you start doing that, you don't have free speech. That's absolutely right. And that's what these folks wanted to say, is the people who got Section 230 protections wanted to say it's the town square. It's where people can discuss, but in practice, no one was able to discuss shit because Facebook was actively limiting conservative content when this website was running ads on Facebook. Nothing the issue, no direct community, like no calling to action, no, things about like violence, nothing like that. We were initially advertising stickers, harmless stickers, which was like our logo. And I think that was it. Might have been the Facebook that we ran. Facebook started issuing us community guideline warnings. Why is that?
The logo is just
because these quote unquote town square folk were directly interfering and playing a game inside their realm to control what people saw. And so, granted, I did not spend my entire budget on the Facebook ad, which was something like $30. I spent maybe like $20 because I left it run for a couple days.
Yeah.
But that just shows that it wasn't running or reaching nearly where, because we should have ran through $30 in like a matter of days. $30 lasts us a week. And that just shows you how much they throttle conservative viewpoints, conservative content, because these people are playing publisher. they're playing editors. They are controlling the game. This is true with Facebook, which is by proxy
would you
Instagram.
want a government-run message board, basically, where it's an actual public forum on the internet?
I'm glad you asked that. Phenomenal question. I want Section 230.
The argument is always that it's a private company who can choose who has access to their platform. So would you rather there be an actual, like, you can't get trespassed from a public park because it's public property? Would you want like that equivalent online?
I'm glad you asked that, Walker. And my major point here is that if you're a company who has the privilege of having Section 230 privileges and protections, you cannot censor any kind of speech on your platform unless it directly infringes upon already established federal law, i.e. calls to violence, etc. Okay?
I think you completely missed the point I was trying to make, because that's exactly what I was trying to say.
That was more addressing them. I didn't mean to discredit what you were trying to say.
It's totally okay. The way I view it is the likes and the views are relevant, because when you go to TikTok, you go to Snapchat Discover page, it's all the same. It's almost as if the media itself or whoever runs it.
Is that towards how popular it does on there, or what the algorithm says that you're going to like?
No clue.
It's more or less what the algorithm thinks you're going to like.
And it's horrible because I feel like every time I see...
Are you more conservative than you let on?
No.
This is a man who joined a military organization, so...
Okay, yeah.
He's okay with machine guns, so that alone sets him apart.
The way I see it is, it feels like we're being forced to see something that we particularly don't want to see, or it's almost like we're being force-fed these things.
What don't you want to see?
I just don't want to see ignorance.
So like a vast majority of Democratic and liberals on social media.
That's crazy. That's not entirely true. I'm just saying that, like...
I've seen a lot recently.
I'm just saying, like, a video like that, I'm willing to guarantee it probably has less than 50K
and if you
likes.
guys look, it's a 4-3 split. If I turn the camera or the video around, it's a 43 split. Left, liberals on the left.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I've seen
and
this.
Conservatives on the right.
What's the premise here?
No, so it's usually these group sessions.
No, I understand about move this way if you agree. What's the question?
They are talking about free speech. And the people on the right who visually, I know that's kind of a faux pas, they don't look like entirely conservatives to me, especially how they're talking.
Or dressed.
They're saying that, like, it's their people's right to say that. Were you not here for that whole clip?
No, we went to the bathroom.
Okay.
Well, what's interesting about the free speech concept, right, is you have this is the way I see it. You have two forms of how an individual is raised or how they perceive society. You have change and you have tradition.
Right.
Tell me this right now with a straight face, any of you really. Remember when all those BLM protests were going on, how the NFL had Black Lives Matter in the end zone and all that stuff, right? Because they were
absolutely asinine.
Because they were trying to end racism, right? Tell me this with a full, honest, blatant truth. Will racism ever die?
No.
Here's this. It would be no help to Black Lives Matter because they did absolutely fucking nothing to help racism.
Well, obviously, I'm just saying blatantly.
They did a lot to help racism.
Well,
they didn't do a lot to help end racism.
Here's this thing. It would be incredibly naive to say that, racism will completely die.
Well, hypothetically, eventually people will intermix enough to the point where there's kind of like everyone's just tan.
In the distant future.
No.
Here,
everyone's going to be Hispanic
we have
in the future.
Here we have an example of probably a fucking... I mean, I think the FBI considers them a terrorist organization.
Who?
The FBI, Black Lives Matter.
Oh, I'm not sure that's true. Especially not with Biden. As the
because
the FBI is part of the executive branch.
Here's my hot take. Will racism ever end? Well, if you want to go based off on the actual definition instead of the liberal definition, where if you disagree with any sort of point that a liberal makes, you're obviously racist. Probably at some sort of point in the future, but is racism a problem in the United States of America? Absolutely not.
The way I see it